Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update and take two. So I am going to kind of wait for the delay here just to make sure that we've got good signal. Everybody can hear me. As long as I get kind of a thumbs up from anybody in a chat, we'll be doing good to go. Just taking a look at the satellite basin out here while I'm waiting on confirmation. We have our tropical storm and our former Invest 99L. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and dive back into it here. And if one of the team members, if you guys would, somebody go back and just delete that previous video, if you would, please. So this way it'll catch it on all platforms. If you would, I gotta delete it on YouTube, but yeah, at least at that point, if you delete it over there, it'll catch it on everywhere else that it went. Okay, so looking at our 7-day graphic tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, we see nothing. There is no colors, no orange, no red, no yellow. The only thing that we have is Tropical Storm Fernand out here in the open waters of the Atlantic, and it is no threat to land. It is currently with the low level center kind of disjointed from the convection, and as long as this continues down this path, it may be post tropical cyclone before Wednesday morning, as to what the previous forecast were calling for. Let's see here. Okay, I'm having a little bit of an issue over here on YouTube, but either way, keeps connecting and disconnecting the chat. But I don't know nothing about that. So if there's anybody over there on YouTube that's trying to speak, we are on Facebook, and that is working just fine. So our current location of our Atlantic tropical storm, 35.3 north, 57.2 west, about 485 miles east northeast of Bermuda. Maximum sustained winds are a generous 60 miles an hour. Present movement is north-northeast at 14 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,000 millibars. There are currently no watches or warnings in effect and no hazards affecting land. If we look at the discussion, I am not going to read it all out to everybody, but as we can see here, we have Fernand is forecast to become post-tropical early on Wednesday due to a lack of convection. But it wouldn't be surprising if that transition happened sooner. The new NHC intensity forecast is basically an update of the previous one. But if convection doesn't redevelop soon near the center, this is probably a generous estimate, as we could see with the most recent satellite view. The convection is not near the center. It is well displaced from it, and it is going to continue to weaken. And as we could see here, we may have the final advisory on this tomorrow, depending on how it behaves overnight. My daughter knows good and well that I am live. Bad, Kylie. Okay, looking at the forecast track out here into the wide open waters of the Atlantic, looking at the spaghetti plots, everything has pretty much got this thing falling apart and then tracking across. All right, now, like I said with our tropical outlook, we have nothing out here right now. So what we're going to have to do is more look along the lines of our upcoming seeds. What we need are areas of spin. We need mid-level humidity levels to be high enough. We don't need a lot of dry air in the atmosphere. We also need the sea surface temperatures to be warm enough to support tropical cyclone development, which, for the most part, I mean, everywhere that they're going to be, the sea surface temperatures are certainly warm enough. That's kind of not really much of a question. And then we also need our wind shear to be low. So, what we're going to do here tonight is we've got our Euro on the left and our GFS on the right. These are our two deterministic runs, and these are the 12Z runs. So, this would have been 8 a.m. here, 8 a.m. here at Eastern Time this morning. So, what we're looking for are areas of spin here associated with the tropics. Right now, we don't see hardly anything at all. There is no areas of spin. Well, as we continue to run these forward, there is a broad area of rotation here and a more condensed area of rotation associated with the Euro coming off a little bit quicker. Here we are, day 7. GFS has a more broader area of spin back here, about 7 days, beginning to exit out over the open waters and heading towards the Cabo Verde Islands. The Euro has a little bit more of a comprehensive wave, and it's obviously a little bit quicker. So if we were to run this out, though, as we could see when we get this thing out to about 10 days, the Euro still keeps this up quite high. And the GFS doesn't have much at all. So what we're going to now look at is, now we know, all right, there is a particular seed that we are going to look at. We don't see any other areas of potential spin other than off the east coast of the United States. Non-tropical low always could turn around and get into some type of tropical formation if left out over the open waters, especially over the Gulf Stream, to meander out there for an extended period of time. So what we see on the models as far as the spin and the rotation associated with this trough, that is going to have to be more of a nowcast. Wouldn't be surprised if some of the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, there may be issues a 10-10 little yellow spot along the trough if the models are kind of hinting towards consolidation of a surface feature. So now that we know where we've got a potential seed out here into the kind of the central portion of the main development region, the GFS really keeps it quite broad. The Euro has a little bit more, and they're both running at about 15 degrees north, maybe a little bit higher on the Euro. Okay, so now let's take a look at this is our relative humidity, and I've set this up a little bit different tonight. So our frames on the left are the Euro. The frames on the right are the GFS. The 500 millibar is the top frames. So, and the 700 millibar level are the lower frames. So let's take a look at our graphic to make sure that everybody can understand. The top graphic is running at about 18,000 feet, or about 3.5 miles above the surface. The bottom graphic represents about 10,000 feet, or approximately 2 miles above the surface. So we're really looking at the humidity level, kind of trying to get a good idea of what the humidity level is between this area and this bracket of the atmosphere. Okay, now let's go back and take a look at our humidity. As we could see in the 500 millibar levels, there are some of dry air components that are out there. Now we do know that the Saharan air layer has been out there, but it's that time of year to where we're going to start to lose those influences. So we really need to look at the other competing factors for dry air entrainment into the portions of the main development region of the tropical Atlantic. Well, here we are out 72 hours, and if you notice on both models, we have an injection of dry air coming in from the northwest out here off the coast of Africa, coming in and dropping into the main development region over where our eventual wave is going to come through. Now, this is only 3 days out. The signal is much further out than that. So, what we're going to hope and what we're going to look for is kind of the residual portions of this dry air. And as we could see with the Euro, we'll bring it in here. Our little wave shows up here at day 7 right here. Our wave with the GFS is showing up right here with a little bit more moisture associated with it. Well, if we compare that with the 500 millibar levels, we will then see that some of this dry air is interfering with the potential development of this system. So we see a little bit of a filament in the lower levels, but when we get up into the mid levels here, about halfway up, really where weather can, maybe a little less than half, but where weather takes place, we note that there is some dry air entrainment potentially on the models. Okay, now if we run this out and we take it all the way to its, furthest point with 240 hours or 10 days, we see at this point with the Euro at the 700 millibar level, there is a ring of dry air almost encapsulating or trying to encapsulate the 700 millibar level wave pocket circulation, whatever we want to call it at that point. If we take a look and compare that with the 500 millibar level, there is very little moisture signature here and a very strong tongue of very dry air pulling into where the wave pocket or concentrated center would be. If we compare that with the GFS is also calling for a large tongue of dry air at the 500 millibar level. So we're going to, what at least the models are calling for here this morning, we're going to be looking at, a decent amount of dry air throughout the mid levels of the atmosphere. So keep in mind, this is forecast to be dry through this layer. That's what we're looking for. On top of that, now remember, there are multiple components. We are now going to be looking at our forecast wind shear. This is deep layer wind shear over the 200 to 850 millibar level. So we're looking now from this level here all the way down to this level here, and how the winds change with height and how they are represented. So as we continue to run this forward, we're out 72 hours. we're out 120 hours. Here comes our wave coming off 168 hours. We see a decent belt of shear and it beginning to develop along and especially through the Caribbean. The Euro has it stretching out quite a bit further and is developing more of kind of a belt of shear with higher values and lower values kind of materializing, but there's definitely a west to east component on the majority of these arrows. Now, the GFS has something more like this with a high pressure feature, upper level anticyclone in the replacement of what we have here associated with this. And a little bit of an upper level low trying to be right there as well because the winds are rotating this way, but the anticyclone is right there. So there's definitely some differences when we get out into the models, and there usually always is when we look at the wind shear models. But if we continue to run this forward, we will note that the Euro is quite dramatically different from the GFS as far as what we're looking at with the wind field across this region right here. The Euro has our wave right here approaching a belt of shear due to a low pressure area here, and we also have our jet stream here with a very, very potent low pressure or upper level low potentially right there. Now, the GFS agrees on the location of this, but nowhere near the intensity. And this would help to reinforce this belt of winds here. So right now we're starting to see a little bit of this west to east component. And it'll be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. We've got a while. It's certainly going to be quiet for a little bit. Now, real quick, I've got here zoomed in on our area in the Western Atlantic that was associated with the upwelling of Aaron. You may see, oh, look, there was the temperature anomalies and everything. But if we go back and we take a look at the temperatures here, this area in green is not necessarily supportive of tropical cyclones. There's very little energy there. But if you look back here where Aaron became a Category 5 hurricane and was really, really, at its most intense, as you can see, there's not a lot of water cooling left out there. At least the sea surface temperatures. Now, we haven't looked at the oceanic heat content because we don't have a developed storm, so it's not necessarily a relevant topic until we get a low pressure center over it. But as you could see, the sea surface temperatures are definitely there. Now, if we drive this out to the tropical Atlantic, you could certainly see that this entire belt is certainly supportive of some type of tropical cyclone. So anything that gets in here, any seed that comes off would have at least the water temperatures. Now, will it have the atmospheric environment? That remains to be seen. And we've got a little bit of subsidence also with a kind of a suppressive phase of the MJO cycle rolling through our basin at this time. Now we're going to move on to the ensembles. Now, the ensembles are really beginning to pick up on something along the East Coast or the Southeast United States. Some type of low pressure. Now, whether this is tropical in nature or not remains to be seen. This only shows cyclone locations, not just tropical cyclone locations. So, a low pressure center is potentially forecast to develop, as we can see here, day 4, day 5, and that's about when we're starting to see a signal, day 6, day 7. So, in about 4 or 5 days, maybe 6, 7. So, we're looking at about a week from now. We could have something kind of trying to linger out offshore out there associated with a trough. That remains to be seen. I mean that there's going to be a trough there, so we'll have to monitor that as we go forward. Now, keep in mind this is out 10 days, and then we finally have a signal with our little seedling that we looked at earlier. So there are a few of the ensemble members, just a handful under 10, which leaves it at under a 20% chance. So it's something that we'll continue to monitor, but it's nothing to really be concerned with. My more interest is going to be associated with this area of potential low pressure along the eastern seaboard of the United States. That is going to create a great amount of rain for some folks. And yeah, if you didn't want it, you might get it anyway for the folks down there in along the Florida Peninsula. If we compare the Euro legacy with the Euro AI, we can see going out 10 days, we don't even have that wave signaling on the Euro AI. We do have some marks here and some signals associated with this stalled out frontal boundary. So again, the potential for some type of low pressure off the eastern seaboard of the United States or into the northeastern portions of the Gulf of Mexico could occur. As we compare the Euro products with the GEFS, we can also note that there's just a couple little lines out here. GEFS is certainly not in, excitement with that wave or that seedling that we seen, though we have an East Coast, U.S. East Coast signal there. So, again, all in all, that's what we're looking at as far as the physics-based model are concerned. Now, if we pull up Google DeepMind and we start running this out, we will note that Google DeepMind does have a signal, but I want you to keep an eye on the Eastern Pacific right here. All right, this is 7 days into the future. So I would like to show you what that signal is potentially. That signal is potentially the wave of energy associated with Invest 99. Invest 99 may very well get its opportunity on the stage, as you can see here, about 6 days, 7 days, and then out here in the Eastern Pacific, it may have its opportunity to shine. We'll continue to watch the models. It's still way out there, 7 days into the time frame, but there is at least an outlook put out from the National Hurricane Center for the Eastern Pacific, and I will show that here shortly. But as we can see with the Google DeepMind, as far as anything goes off the East Coast, we don't have much. We've got one signal that emanates off of Mexico and then rushes out. So we don't really have the signal of the low pressure, and it'll be interesting to see if if the model takes into account land-based low pressure or non-tropical lows, then evolving into tropical systems. Keep in mind, the Google DeepMind is still, it was trained on everything from 2021 and prior. So it is a very, very young model. We certainly give it a break. Now, taking a look at our MJO and what we're looking at here tonight. So, we've gotten some changes. Over the last few days, we noted that this was kind of stuck in this region right here. Now it's kind of moved along and then forecast to drop in and then turn right back around. So I don't trust this. I don't. Once we get the lower amplitude where it falls within that circle, we'll have to wait and see. There is some signal that a weak, very, very weak, enhancement to phase one, phase two out here could potentially occur. But then again, it is within this overall circle here, so it's not really going to be much at all. It could be something quick, but at least that has been a change in the models today. And as you could see with some of the ensembles, they drop in, and then some of them are curling, and they're not really getting out here into portions and amplifying over portions of the Atlantic Basin. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out over the next couple days. So I will definitely we always check in on it, especially during a neutral season. All right, a real quick look at Earth Null. As we can see, we'll put it into the now motion. 850 millibar level, 700 millibar level. Surface, we see nothing associated with Invest 99L. It has been absolutely shredded. There's a small little dimple of energy, I guess you would call it, here at the 500 millibar level, but otherwise than that, it's literally nothing. All right, now our check in on our dust model. Now remember, folks, we're not going to be looking at this too much more into the future. As you could see, even if a plume comes off, there's not a lot of dust that's making it across the tropical Atlantic. It is more confined more towards the eastern portions of the Atlantic. And yes, some dry air could be associated with it, but there's not enough of the trade winds to really keep it lofted up for extended periods of time. So, unfortunately, the Saharan air layer season is coming to a close. Well, not coming to a close, just winding down. All right, now we're going to jump out to the Eastern Pacific, and we have Tropical Storm Juliet, and this thing has a potential. It's really got a massive amount of inflow associated with this monsoon and intertropical convergence zone. As you could see, it comes back, it buckles up here associated with the tropical storm, and then kind of meanders back down and goes back this way. This thing is just funneling all of this moisture into it, and everything coming up from the south as well. It is quite a feature to unfold throughout the day today. It is certainly getting a lot stronger than what some of the previous forecasts were calling for, and let's see. We'll just pull up a very close-up view on this. We'll get it into the 90. So this way we get the last 90 minutes of frames. We'll hit the refresh on it, let it reload, so this way it'll always update for us. And as you can see, it is certainly beginning to fire a lot of convection over here on the southwestern side. With it's got a weird shape, and even the National Hurricane Center also noted its weird shape. But again, we have the Google DeepMind, if you remember, had our area, oh, this is over the next 7 days. This is the current wave here. We do not have the other one associated with the Eastern Pacific. I honestly have not been watching the Eastern Pacific that much at all because there's no real threat to land. So we have a pair of 20 percenters out here into portions of the Eastern and Central Pacific, riding along the monsoon trough that we just highlighted with Tropical Storm Juliet. We look at the forecast track, again, no threat to land. We look at Juliet's particulars. We're currently at 17.6 north, 114.5 west. We are approximately 60 miles an hour with our maximum sustained winds and moving west northwest at 14 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure of 999 millibars. There are no coastal watches or warnings in effect, no hazards affecting land. The one thing that it does highlight here, as far as the discussion is concerned, it says Juliet has another 24 to 36 hours before it reaches cooler waters and a drier, more stable atmosphere. Continued strengthening is expected in the short term, and Juliet does have the potential to become a hurricane. In fact, the latest ship's rapid intensification indices are showing a 40 to 45% change of 25 knot increase over the next day. So, the National Hurricane Center forecast has now, within the next 24 hours, has Juliet as a minimal Category 1 75 mile an hour hurricane. It could very well surprise that, being that it is looking quite well at this time, but we'll wait and we'll see. Jumping out to the Western Pacific, we have Kajiki out here. Typhoon made landfall into Vietnam for us U.S. residents here this morning. As you could see, the final warning that came out from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, 80 knots. This would have been a strong Category 1, right into the Category 2 range, give or take. And if we look at the current satellite, it has moved inland and is continuing its westward trajectory, but the plume of convection that is on the backside of the circulation, and especially out over the waters, is just immense. And there's a lot of people that are getting absolutely hammered by this rainfall and its continuous persistent convection being developed out here over the open waters and then being strung inland over even places like Hanoi. And that's a lot of water, folks. I know I've seen rainfall amounts that were exceeding 400 millimeters. That was this morning. And for our Western folks, 400 millimeters, you're talking about pretty close to, let's see here, just a rough estimate. What? Approximately maybe a foot of rain, give or take. So it's still coming down. So it's terrible for these folks out here. And if you wanted to know more, obviously, for the folks that are long-term followers of the page, you could just come out here to the database associated with the page and go right down here to Vietnam. I'm not going to pull all that up tonight, though, folks. All right, everybody. I'm going to look back, see if we've got any questions. I don't see any. Let me check. Let me see. Let me show the chat over here. Make sure. Yes, Henry. If we look at Henry on YouTube there, if we look at the overall convective wave and envelope with it, It is more orientated kind of east to west at this point. There's not really a lot of connection with the overall monsoon trough itself. It is kind of separated. So if we come and we take a look here on Earth Null, and we do note that the convection is there. Well, we'll come down to the surface, and as you could see, the surface feature, our winds are moving at least what Earth Null's calling for, in the mid 20s. If we come up to the 850 millibar level, which is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface, these winds at this point are moving in the upper 30s to 40 mile an hour range. If we were to come up to the 700 millibar level, now we're getting back into our mid 20s. So there is a 15 mile an hour wind component here just in this level right here. This is kind of key because as the storm begins to develop and as the air parcel rises, it is then going to be separated and at least relocated and moved off. Now, as it continues to rise, then it's going to hit an area to where it is not as much. And everything is going to continue to be going this way. On top of that, its forward motion is hindering, yes. But if we look at the overall Saharan air associated with the wave pocket of 99L, as you could see here, the eastern, central, and western Caribbean are forecast to kind of dry out and to have this thing preceding and not being able to develop because of its lack of development. It is not going to feel these winds or any kind of influence up here. It is going to stay primarily steered on this particular belt of wind, on this steering current. On top of that, this high pressure is forecast to build ridge to build in even stronger and usher this off to the west. And this is on the GFS solution. I will run this forward. That's 24 hours. This is 48 hours. This is 72 hours. And as you could see, there's no change in the overall steering flow. And if we run it out 96 hours, it is still no overall change in the steering flow whatsoever. And it's eventually going to run into land. The models, the whole Invest classification on it, the models aren't even running on it anymore. And I can... As you can see, the last run was the 6Z this morning. And they're all pretty much done for. Now, we could see, yes, we're going to see continued showers and storms move across associated with the wave of energy, but will it become anything tropical in nature? No, sir. There's nothing that were to hint to that being able to occur. All right, everybody. I am going to go ahead, and you're very welcome, Betty. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I am going to try to catch your little area and try to be in your neck of the woods tomorrow morning with your coffee talk little thing. I'm going to try to get in there. I'm interested to see what Mr. Burris has to say. Thank you, Henry. I appreciate that, sir. I really do. I really try to, explain things into a level of detail that, it becomes, clear for folks to be able to understand, because not a lot of times when you turn on the television, they just tell you, hey, there's a clump of showers and thunderstorms here, and this is what it's going to do. And for the folks on television, they do understand exactly what's going on. The problem is they're limited by time, and that time does not allow for any kind of in-depth discussion and teaching of what exactly is going on and how the different layers of the atmosphere kind of play an overall role into the whole thing. And you've got to get a tropical cyclone to develop, you have to have certain components being able to be, or certain criteria being met. And then we may have a tropical cyclone. It's not a guarantee. So, all right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for this evening. We will be back live again tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, here on Facebook and YouTube. And we will be live every single night until Halloween. Even though we are probably going to lose our tropical storm, I gave you all my word this year that we're going to be here every night. We're not going to play the 40% development percentage game and kind of run things, and we all sit back and we're like, we could have gone live to explain things. So we're just going to go ahead and take the precautionary measure, and we're going to be live every night till Halloween. So come back, join us. Right now, though, if you don't, I completely understand. Take a break. But we'll still be here. So with that, everybody, have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night. Good night.